film. Humans injected with a tiny chip holding the key to all of their private information.
But as you're about to see in our CBS 46 investigation, it's not fiction. In fact, it's being marketed in Georgia as life-saving technology. So why do some experts say it's potentially deadly? CBS 46's Kim Fettig investigates.
It's used in key cards, prepaid tolls, even checked luggage. It's called RFID technology, or radio frequency identification. Small chips that store information.
So here's the chip.
And now that same technology is literally available in the flesh, with chips injected right into people's arms.
It says it burns a little bit. That's about it.
Atlanta firefighter John Santola was injected with the chip about the size of a grain of rice. When scanned, the number on the chip is linked to a database with Santola's medical history.
I had to go help me in case of an emergency.
Santola was chipped when Florida-based VeriChip Corporation set up a booth at an Atlanta firefighter conference. They market the chip primarily for safety reasons, storing medical information for first responders, Alzheimer's patients, even children.
And it is the only product that has been approved by the FDA for this specific purpose.
The FDA approved the use of chips in humans in 2004, but since then it's caused quite a bit of controversy with some consumer groups, concerned about privacy, even health concerns.
These are very powerful tools, especially if they fall in the hands of somebody with political ambitions.
One of the loudest voices of opposition is right here in the Boston area, a Harvard doctor and author of spy chips.
These technologies will not make us safer. I think they'll make us sitting ducks for Big Brother.
Dr. Catherine Albrecht also compiled 16 years of studies she says prove the chip can cause cancerous tumors.
It's clear as day that these tumors were not only malignant, but they metastasized, they spread to the lungs, the liver, the thymus, the brain.
These pictures show the tumors growing around the actual chip in the mice and rats.
Certainly the company, I mean, they've done, I think, a tremendous job of keeping that information under wraps for the last several years.
We sat down with the chief medical officer of VeriChip and asked about the link to cancer in mice.
Yeah, I am not aware. I mean, I would have to take a look at what's out there right now. I'm not aware of any issues at this point.
But weeks later, VeriChip sent 26 pages of literature claiming the incidence of microchip-associated sarcoma in rodents is very low, and claims the mice in at least one of those studies were genetically engineered to be tumor-prone.
No doubt in your mind that this is safe for us medically.
Yes, I mean, from everything that I've seen, it's very superficial. It's been in the animals for 20 plus years.
John Santola won't need to worry about the cancer debate. His chip fell out after 2 days.
Would you get it again?
I would not get it again.
To me, this is the future of medicine.
But how far in the future? Well, VeriChip advertises the technology in use at 8 Atlanta area medical facilities, including Crawford Long Hospital, Emory University, and DeKalb Medical Center. But our investigation found that none of these centers are actually using microchip technology. For full copies of studies done on microchips and humans, log on to CBS46.com. I'm Kim Fettig, CBS 46 Investigates.
The New York Knicks have looked.
All right, brothers, so
Futuristic film.
there it is. The newscast that, people need to watch, okay? Again, somebody did say something in the comments, and first and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Harakakodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders and teachers at Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Now, Apostle Tahar has been bringing this out for quite some time. And that lady, Catherine Albright, that book, Spy Chips, I highly recommend. Once again, I'm the only one that's been recommending it so far. But the reason is because Apostle Tahar taught us about the RFID microchip. And I'm sure he knew about this a long time ago, too. But to my knowledge, I'm the one who's bringing this out right now for a reason, for you brothers, okay? So the reason being is you need to be hip to this information, So the RFID microchip is being pushed by GMS, all right? And we've been telling you this truth for the longest time. And this is the truth, all right? This is what you need to know. Because why? Because the scriptures say so. And matter of fact, let's get some more information on this. Catherine Albright, about DNA tracks. Listen to this.
A government lab has come up with a new technology to track down the source of tainted foods. The goal is to limit or prevent foodborne illness. To do this, scientists have created particles comprised of sugar and non-living and non-viable DNA. They call it DNA tracks. One report from Innovation Now says the DNA tracks will act like an invisible barcode that can be sprayed on our food. It's an odorless and tasteless substance, and the Food and Drug Administration says it won't harm us. Technology and consumer privacy expert Catherine Albrecht joins us now with more on this. Dr. Albrecht, when you hear this will reportedly serve as an invisible barcode, does that concern you?
Well, the industry has been looking for ways to track food as a response to the trouble with foodborne illness, and I think no one will deny that this is a real problem. Many experts argue that this is a real problem because the conditions in factory farms, in mass production, may not be as sanitary as they should be. But I think moving to kind of a spray-on DNA is an example of what I like to call burden shifting, which is really placing a sort of a new tracking and privacy burden potentially on consumers. And it may be difficult to kind of see the connection, so let me see if I can explain this. I've actually spent many years fighting against a technology called RFID that we call spy chips, and actually I have a book by that name about it. RFID technology, or radio frequency ID technology, was originally developed as a way to track products in warehouses. And there was an initiative a number of years back to replace the barcode with it so that all objects could be traceable. And traceability with objects, while it may sound like a good idea, presents a huge privacy problem for consumers, because what it makes possible would be, for example, a banana peel tossed by the side of the road. You could literally scan the banana peel, get its unique DNA number, track it back to a consumer frequent shopper card, and figure out which consumer purchased the banana and maybe issue them a littering ticket for tossing it out the window. I think,
and that's a humongous privacy violation. Another reason why Esau Edom wants to microchip everybody, okay? Not only for a signal of compliance and slavery to his system, and really it's all about compliance and power. So Esau, Edom, desires to be like the Most High, where everybody relies on him for, their on earth prosperity. And only the elect is going to be, which is the chosen of the nation of Israel, by the way. It's going to be of the 12 tribes. They are going to refute it. They're going to refuse it and not take this RFID microchip technology, which nobody's pushing. All right, but GMS.
the bigger concern is when we get into the area of Big Brother and surveillance in government, the potential for someone to actually be able to pick up any object in your house, whether it's an item of food, whether it's a pen, whether it's something else that has had this technology applied to it, and determine where you bought it, when you bought it, or if it was in someone else's home or was given to you as a gift, who bought it for you, where they bought it, what they paid for it. All of this becomes possible once you can apply something that individually identifies the object and makes it trackable, not only through the
and is the same principle doctrine with cryptocurrency. Those blockchains know the exact, they say that this is a potential against fraud, you know, that it's a good thing because you can tell that the transaction with cryptocurrency, which is digital, which is another form of, digital tracking and stuff like that, instead of paper receipts, is another form of this. And that's why you always got to track the money. The money always tells on everybody. So the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money itself, but the love of it. But tracking those blockchains to find out exactly when you made your transaction, who made the transaction, under what particular blockchain, and crypto wallet and things like this, at what exact time, and can be traced and tracked everywhere. You know, so that's not so much a good thing. Okay.
Food chain, not only through the retail supply chain, but literally through the chain of sort of us exchanging objects with one another as Christmas gifts, anniversary presents, you name it. And I think it just opens a can of worms.
DNA tracks can also be used to hunt down the producers of fraudulent food, like mislabeled olive oil, using similar tracking methods. Does this level of tracking have troubling applications?
Well, I think once you're, first of all, we haven't really had huge problems with that, I think, to the extent that we're having issues with other things. The problem, and what that immediately brings to mind, for example, is the recent studies that show that a lot of the pharmaceuticals and herbal products being brought in from China may not actually contain the things in question. And while it may seem tempting to ask somebody in the supply chain to spray on the DNA, I have real concerns, and I'll just name a few of them. When we saw the frequent shopper card introduction, which I actually wrote my Harvard dissertation about, the privacy implications of those cards, because they enable them to track all your food purchases, there were vast and wonderful promises made by the supermarkets that in the event you got tainted food, how easy it would be. They would know where it came from. They'd know who you were. If there was a bad batch of something, they could contact everyone who had purchased it. And there have actually been a number of lawsuits against the supermarkets because they didn't do that at all. That would be very expensive and time-consuming and difficult. So while it provided a reassurance for consumers, they actually didn't act on it in the long run. My concern is if we're sourcing things in from other countries, how reliable is that actually going to be? And do we really want to solve the problem in a way that creates additional problems for us? I got to say, I'm feeling uneasy about it from just a shopper perspective. I founded an organization called Consumers Against Supermarket Privacy Invasion and Numbering, or CASPIN. And I think the deeper they get into tracking individual products and individuals who purchase those products, I think the deeper they're going to get into every aspect of what we buy and what we do.
Switching to another.
Right, and that's the whole problem. See, when you go to the scripture, all right, Revelation 13:16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Okay, so there you have it right there, man. That mark, when you go into the scripture, it's an etching or an engraving. And that's exactly what is happening. Okay? Charagma, a stamp or imprinted mark. Okay? Definition 2, thing carved, sculpture, graven work. Okay? Strong's definition, a scratch or etching, stamp. It says as a badge of servitude. Okay, so that's exactly what it is about, man. All right, you're going to make all of y'all slaves, man. Look, a pale or stake is from that root word etymology from charazo, to sharpen to a point, akin to G1125, through the idea of scratching. So that means to go through the surface of the skin, pale or stake, just like the awl, the AUL, threshing instrument, which would go through the ear of a slave back in the ancient world, and through the doorpost of his ear, to signify that you would be a servant for life to that particular slave master. All right. So there you have it. This is exactly what we've been warning you about. I mean, it's coming to pass, man. It's all up in the news. Look, it's 10 years ago, 17 years ago. And this lady, she dedicated her life to this 14 years ago. Okay. DNA Enigma, she's on it. She was on that interview in New York City a long time ago. Listen to this.
So give us your name, your full name, your profession, and spell your name for us, please.
Okay, I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and that's Katherne. My last name is Albrecht, Albrecht, and I am the founder and director of Caspian, and I'm the co-author of the book Spy Chips.
Sounds good. So, what are you out here to do today? What is your stance, and what is this whole issue about?
Well, we're here because at the Fashion Institute of Technology, we had a conference today where leaders in the RFID industry from all over the world have gotten together to try to promote to the apparel industry the idea of placing remotely readable RFID spy chips into clothing and shoes, and that would be an absolute privacy nightmare. So we're here to let the industry know that consumers don't want tracking devices in their clothing.
Could you tell us what RFID stands for and what exactly it is?
Sure. RFID stands for radio frequency identification. It's tiny microchips, in some cases as small as a speck of dust, connected to miniature antennas that can transmit information at a distance anywhere from 5 to 30 feet away. And when they embed those into clothing or shoes or other items that people would wear or carry, they can also put the readers to pick up those signals into floors and doorways, ceiling tiles, really anywhere people go, and use them to track and identify people.
All right, sounds good. So what is your stance on RFID chips and their use and them being implemented into fashion?
Well, I think it's really a terrible place to think to put a tracking device into someone's shoe. I mean, that's something that we wear, we have with us all the time, and if you've got the ability to track a shoe, then clearly you've got the ability to track the person in it. So what we've told the RFID industry is that we don't have a problem with them using RFID in the warehouse to track their inventory, but not on the individual item, and that's called item level tagging, and that's what we're going to propose. So put it on a crate, put it on a pallet, put it on a box, put it on a truck, but don't put it on a pair of shoes or a book or a toothbrush or anything that would be carried on by an individual consumer.
What is your main concern about having these chips within these products?
I think probably the best way to understand the privacy nightmare that these chips could usher in is to take a look at something that IBM has developed called person tracking units.
Now, powerful stuff. Now, brothers, I want you to go and research this, man, and get that book, Spy Chips by Catherine Albrecht. All right, you see her name right there. So it's probably going to run you like $15, $20 to get the book, but it's very important to have it because it tells a lot of information about this. A lot of information. You could do multiple videos on it as well, over and over and over and over again. Okay? Because it's edifying. It's going to really just build up your faith. So when that time comes, you're going to recognize it and say, well, this is the same thing written in the scriptures. I'm just, I'm ready. I'm ready to refuse it. All right? We're not going to take this at all. Abaratazan, if we're of the elect, we're going to say, no, hell no. I'm not doing it. And I don't need your money. You know what I mean? Like Mace said, all money's not good money. All right? All money's not good money. Believe that. He's crazy. But facts though. So, make sure that you check this out. Do some research for yourself as well. All right, know how to defend it. Know how to understand the point, haragma, the etching, as to the scratching and piercing of the surface, which goes into your hand or inside your head, all right, in your forehead. And it could be as small as a speck of dust, she said, the RFID component to that. And that tracking and that privacy, see, you only have privacy if you're free, all right? But you're tracked, and as people would know your whereabouts if you're not free, you're a slave to them, all right? When they have rulership over you in that essence of being your slave master, they're going to know where you're at all times, and that's unacceptable. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. Just a quick video, but I'll do more later. How about Shamir Shad, Baraka thumb to the hopeful elect.